Drake has always prided himself on commanding attention, but these days, with the spotlight drifting away from his once unstoppable chart run and zeroing in on the next wave of boundary-pushing albums, he's facing a stark new reality. People are asking, has Drake's moment as the undisputed top dog finally slipped out of his grasp? And more importantly, how did the unstoppable force that once dominated every music platform reach this precarious crossroad? Some insist the writing's been on the wall for a while. Others believe all it takes is one decisive move for Drake to reclaim his throne. The truth appears more complicated than any tidy comeback narrative. Over the last few months, a string of newly released projects has overshadowed Drake's recent album, SSS For You, in ways few anticipated. Fans and casual observers alike have begun re-evaluating his position in an era that's quickly embracing new sounds and unexpected alliances. This is a pivotal moment for Drake, and whether he can pivot fast enough will determine the trajectory of his career. Not too long ago, many regarded Drake as someone who could release a track filled with half-sung verses and still debut at #1. He seemed unstoppable. Yet SSS For You performed far below expectations. The album's first week streaming numbers paled in comparison to anticipated figures, leaving fans confused and critics suspicious that the king might have lost his touch. The big question is, what exactly went wrong? Some observers point to a creative stagnation. Others say too many features and not enough musical risk diluted Drake's identity. There's also the matter of timing. Releasing SSS For You in a climate where other artists, particularly The Weeknd and Tyler, the Creator, were coming off critically acclaimed albums, may have placed undue pressure on Drake. If there was, an assumption that listeners would automatically swarm any project Drake dropped. SSS For You suggests that this one safe bet no longer holds. Perhaps even more concerning is the public's reaction. Chart positions alone don't capture the entire story. Fan engagement, streaming retention, and social media commentary tell an equally revealing tale. It's more chatter focused on how underwhelming the project felt than on any supposed highlights. And while every artist experiences ups and downs, for Drake, this subdued reception is uncharted territory. Meanwhile, the emergence of Playboi Carti's high-profile album, rumored for months and eventually revealed as I Am Music, generated a massive wave of enthusiasm. Known for his avant-garde beats and left-field aesthetics, Carti harnessed the hype of a generation ready for boundary-pushing rap and unstoppable energy. But Carti didn't achieve this monumental success alone. He teamed up with major names, chief among them, Kendrick Lamar, widely considered a lyrical titan and a figure who can almost single-handedly shift the hip-hop landscape. When Carti's new project dropped, it didn't just capture attention, it swallowed the conversation whole. Day one streaming numbers skyrocketed, overshadowing Drake's release by a noticeable margin. This caused a stir on social media platforms, fueling the perception that Drake might finally be succumbing to artists who bring a fresher spin to the table. Even more striking, Carti's album seemed to reinvigorate Kendrick Lamar's fan base, as many hailed his verses as definitive proof that his pen game remains unmatched. Though Drake and Kendrick have rarely engaged in any direct confrontation, fans of both sides can't help but compare the two. It's almost a tradition in hip-hop to pit major figures against each other, especially when one of them appears to be losing ground. Whether the so-called rivalry between Drake and Kendrick is factual or fueled by the rumor mill, the numbers speak loudly. Carti's project, with Kendrick's assistance, leaped to the top of the charts, leaving Drake in a precarious position, not one to slip away quietly. Drake began posting cryptic messages on his social media accounts around the time I Am Music started dominating headlines. Some posts hinted at potential new music, possibly a deluxe edition of SSS For You, or maybe a Scary Hours sequel. Others had fans scratching their heads, trying to decode hidden references or track titles. Critics claim this ploy is more evidence of Drake's desperation. Instead of confidently focusing on a new direction, he's scrambling to restore interest in an album that many have already written off. Just as fans speculated that he might drop a surprise single to compete with Carti's Moment in the Sun, Drake remains silent on official releases. This silence, however, was undercut by a steady trickle of cryptic hints, enough to make sure no one forgot him completely during Carti's takeover. At the same time, speculation mounted regarding Drake's relationships within the industry. Did Playboi Carti intentionally snub him by excluding him from certain tracks? Rumor has it that Drake, who once maintained close ties with nearly every hot name in hip-hop, finds himself increasingly isolated. Alleged silent feuds with A-list producers, rumored creative disagreements with up-and-coming artists, and swirling whispers of behind-the-scenes tension have escalated the drama. Though some fans dismiss these claims as media sensationalism, it's tough to deny the shift in Drake's public perception from all-powerful collaborator to edgy outlier whose star may be dimming, from Best I Ever Had to God's Plan. Drake's brand has always been intertwined with chart-busting hits and impeccable timing. Much of his historical success stemmed from reading the pulse of mainstream culture, adapting his flow, and maintaining an endearing sense of relatability. As the years rolled on, he continued to evolve, dabbling in dancehall, Afrobeat, and more melodic R&B. But this time around, the formula appears to have lost its potent spark. Suddenly, critics are challenging Drake's so-called adaptability, labeling it as trend-hopping. Fairly or not, the narrative arises that the unstoppable force of Drake has finally collided with the immovable object of hip-hop's changing guard. Fueled by TikTok virality, YouTube breakdowns, and fan-led social movements, the new wave of rap feels more experimental, more raw, and arguably more connected to the younger demographic that shapes streaming charts. And with an artist like Carti breaking records left and right, Drake risks being lumped with a past generation if he doesn't reinvent himself. That's not to say Drake has no cards left to play. He's survived dips before, but previously, he never faced so many formidable names simultaneously vying for that top spot. With Kendrick Lamar, The Weeknd, Tyler, the Creator, and now Carti delivering high-impact projects, Drake's standard album rollouts struggle to stand out. And while hype used to follow Drake instinctively, this cycle has proven that it's no longer guaranteed. To reclaim his position, he needs to offer something more substantial than cryptic social media captions and lukewarm singles. In an attempt to regain momentum, Drake is rumored to be planning a large-scale response. One theory suggests that he might introduce a companion album or extended Scary Hours playlist stacked with star-studded features. Others think he'll pivot back to pure rap, ditching the pop-leaning hooks to prove once again why he once held the game in a chokehold. Fans of his earlier bars from the "If you're reading this, it's too late" era are hoping for a fierce comeback, complete with sharper wordplay and an unapologetic tone. However, there's a risk of overcompensating. The last thing Drake can afford is a forced approach that tries too hard to be edgy, only to sound inauthentic. A heartfelt return to the introspection and storytelling he showcased in his early days may be exactly what he needs. Alternatively, collabs with surprising artists outside typical rap circles could spark renewed interest. Either way, half measures and formulaic attempts won't cut it anymore. Meanwhile, some fans argue that Drake should lie low and let the storm pass. After all, even massive star power goes through cycles. The question remains whether the current downturn is a fleeting bump in the road, or a sign that the next generation of rap icons has finally taken over. Drake's own moves in the coming months will provide the most telling clues about how he envisions his next chapter. Zooming out from Drake's immediate struggles reveals a wider shift in the music world. Once upon a time, large streaming platforms magnified established names to near-invincible status. Now, discovering fresh artists through viral challenges, underground collaborations, or unexpected cross-genre partnerships has become a mainstream norm. This environment rewards experimentation and novelty, placing older superstars under more scrutiny. Drake isn't the only one feeling the pressure. Any major star who clings to old formulas faces a similar predicament. Playboi album soared partly because he tapped into a rebellious, hype-driven fan base eager for something that defies the conventional. Kendrick Lamar has remained relevant by reimagining his approach to concept albums and delivering timely social commentary. The Weeknd seamlessly reinvents his persona with each record, experimenting with retro aesthetics, synthetic pop, and cinematic storytelling. Tyler, the Creator, merges funk, soul, rap, and indie stylings in a way that feels organic, not forced. Drake, by contrast, has relied on the same well-worn blueprint, leaving him exposed at a moment demanding serious reinvention. No mainstream rapper's career is free from controversy. Drake has contended with a laundry list of rumored feuds, from personal spats to accusations of overshadowing smaller artists. While none of these have permanently derailed him, they've contributed to lingering skepticism. Whenever Drake appears in a new headline, cynics question his motives and authenticity. Add in swirling conspiracies about how he's responding to the success of IM music, and you get an environment where negativity flourishes. Topics like legal accusations and personal tragedies are usually skirted around with euphemistic language. Even so, fans stay on high alert for slip-ups or hidden messages in Drake's lyrics or social posts. Though speculation may be out of control, it keeps watchers glued to every move Drake makes, and, ironically, that attention can be good for business. But when that spotlight grows more critical than celebratory, it can create lasting harm to an artist's brand. Drake's not immune to this risk. Despite years of conditioning the public to see him as bulletproof, Drake finds himself in a peculiar juncture. He can continue throwing breadcrumbs at his fanbase via cryptic announcements and subdued social media teasers. Or he can take the leap, drop any pretense, and deliver music that authentically resonates with shifting tastes. Because beneath the drama, fans are less concerned with petty metrics and more invested in the emotional or sonic journey an artist can provide. Yet every day, the momentum behind Cardi's album seems to grow, boosted by collaborations featuring Kendrick, Metro Boomin, and other luminaries. The Weeknd, Tyler, and others stand strong with their own major releases. In contrast, SSS For You is fading from streaming charts, losing the ephemeral battle for repeat plays. If Drake wants to reclaim even a fraction of his past dominance, he can't afford to linger in the margins, overshadowed by these emergent powerhouses. So, where does all of this leave Drake? He once epitomized success, bridging pop and rap, heartbreak and bravado, intimacy and grandiosity. But now, overshadowed by an exciting new wave of creators and facing the unstoppable synergy of Cardi and Kendrick, he's forced to adapt or watch his relevance slip away. Cryptic social media hints and attempts at feigned nonchalance suggest Drake recognizes the seriousness of his predicament. The question is, will he navigate this crisis by redefining his artistry or keep clinging to a formula that no longer captivates? There's a sense that the entire music industry is collectively watching to see whether the Sixth God can still pull off a miracle. Some fans believe wholeheartedly that he'll rebound with an album that silences doubters. Others argue his missteps have stacked too high and that the rap throne has already been seized. Either way, Drake's next move is poised to become the defining chapter of his story. Underestimate him at your own risk. This is the same artist who's broken countless records, shaped an entire streaming era, and maintained a vast cultural footprint for more than a decade. Yet as Cardi, Kendrick, and the rest of hip-hop's evolving roster continue to push boundaries, Drake stands at a crossroads, grappling with the undeniable truth. He must evolve, or risk fading into an afterthought. So what do you think? Is Drake's downfall real, or is this just another challenge he'll overcome with a well-timed release and a reinvigorated sense of purpose? Could the world be witnessing the final days of his long-standing dominance, or is a triumphant comeback right around the corner? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you've stuck with us this far, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Every bit of support counts more than ever, especially when it seems like the entire industry is on the brink of a new era. Stay tuned, because if there's one thing we can guarantee, it's that Drake's next move will be bigger than anything we've seen from him in a long time, for better or worse. And if there's one more surprise waiting, it's that Drake might finally break his silence to address every rumor and speculation he's faced. Whether it'll spark a resurgence or confirm doubts remains to be seen. The industry watches, waiting on Drake.